Good morning. Thank you to those who are braving their election night hangover to join us today. This is Ad Age Remotely, and I'm Janine Poggi, Senior Editor here at Ad Age. Today, I'm joined live by Bill Kolb, who was named CEO of McCann Worldgroup earlier last month at this point. Hi, Bill.
Good morning. Good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. How are you?
Not bad. Not bad. No election hangover.
I was going to ask, how late were you up last night?
I kind of knew it wasn't going to be decided last night, so I didn't lose any sleep. Went to bed about 10 o'clock, and
that was smart.
It'll be decided later in the week, so no need to stay up late.
Totally, and a lot riding on place well, Michigan. So we'll see how that turns out.
I think was super positive is this is the largest voter turnout in 120 years, and I think that's a really positive thing that the entire country mostly is engaged and for their own interest. But I think it's an opportunity for both sides to listen. So every vote gets counted, and we'll see what happens in Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania.
Absolutely, yeah. The listening part's interesting, of course. In 2016, I feel like we said that, and I guess we're learning that lesson again as well.
For sure. But we got to do it. We got to do it this time. We got to have the conversations. Just because somebody has a different point of view doesn't mean they're wrong or morally reprehensible. We got to seek to understand and spend time listening. And I think it's super important for us.
Yeah. For those of you who are watching us at home, thank you for joining us. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them on our social channels, and we'll try to get to them during this conversation. So you got this new role. First off, congrats. Big news happening last month. Can you talk a little bit about, assuming this title during the pandemic, during this time, what it's been like and kind of what's going through your head at this point?
Well, certainly it's not what I would have expected a transition to look like in January. But you have to adapt. And I think in many ways it's provided an opportunity to get to people far faster because it's not organizing kind of around the world trips and travel time and travel, just hitting all the spots that you would have to hit, whether it's clients or offices. So in some ways it's been much more effective to do it this way. I certainly don't wish the pandemic was here. However, like I said, in some ways it's really been a lot easier.
Yeah. And you have some large shoes to fill, of course, in replacing Harris Diamond. What are you thinking about, as you sort of continue the momentum of the agency and moving into 2021?
Well, Harris isn't walking away so fast. They still got him on speed dial. So, and I have to give him a lot of credit. He has built an incredible agency with an incredible team that has done amazing things. And I'm blessed to be inheriting what he's built and to build off of it. So it's from my point of view, I'm the luckiest guy in marketing, and I got the best team in the business. So it's all good. And like I said, Harris is still on speed dial for me. So he hears from me often.
What are your top priorities, coming into the role and, moving into the new year?
So number one is our diversity and engagement. We have to make progress. I think we've been at this, or I know we've been at this for some time, but we haven't made enough progress, and that's priority number one. Priority number two is creativity. As you probably know, we have a saying that Rob Riley came up with: creativity is the only way to survive. So we have to continue to enhance our creative portfolio and how we advance creativity in general. Number three is business transformation. I think we are going to go through a number of iterations in terms of how agencies work, how they work with their clients, how we work with our clients, how we move at pace. So a real active look going into 2021 on business transformation. And I think that covers a whole spectrum of things. But it's a huge priority for us because the model is going to change. And it's going to change fast. And we have to be agile, nimble, and aggressive in terms of how we address that transformation of our business.
Yeah. I definitely want to hit on all three of those things, but let's start with the D&I initiatives. Where would you say that the agency, has fallen short currently? Like, what are you prioritizing at this point?
Well, I'm prioritizing a lot. We have a team led by Singleton Beato that is doing a fabulous job. I don't think us as McCann Worldgroup nor our industry at large have done enough and made it a systemic portion of what we do in our business every single day. And that's my goal. And number two is, I don't think the bar of advertising and marketing communications is high enough. I want Worldgroup to set the bar as the best diverse and inclusive agency against any business, against any bar. So that's very, very important. And I think we have to look at all our processes and structures and systems and embed a conscious inclusion lens to everything we do.
So what are some of the ways or steps that you are looking to in order to get to that point?
Well, number one, it's an integrated part of our forward planning process. So there are plans that have to be put in place for each market, each agency in every market in the world that put down specific KPIs that leaders will be measured against. I think that is critical. We're working to do other programs such as our repeating our Day for Meaning coming up in December, which is an event where all employees focus on conscious inclusion and pretty much looking at everything we do to transform how we think about this.
Gotcha. Anything that, we should be paying attention to in terms of, ways, tangible ways, early on in 2021 that you will look to present this or like to hit on some of these like KPIs?
There'll be things that we'll be discussing in early 2021. We've got some more work to do to finalize everything we're going to do in 2021, but watch this space.
Hi to those of you watching at home. Want to say hi to Maha from New York, Christina from France, Sarabit from Canada, Haley from Turkey, Wojciech from Poland, John from Michigan, and Bruna from Brazil. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you have any questions, feel free to pop them into our social channels for us. So McCann experienced several leadership changes over the past couple of weeks. Can you discuss those and what it means for the agency moving forward?
Which other leadership changes specifically? Because there's been a lot around the world.
There's been a lot, just the leadership changes in general, like what that means for the agency. Obviously, a lot of fresh talent blood, assuming new roles. What does that mean? How you're positioning the agency moving forward?
So I think it's part of just realigning with our current client construct and realigning with what the pandemic has done in terms of our operating model and how we behave. The teams are sound and settled, and it's promoting some people into positions that they've earned over the years through their great work. It's nothing massively structural. It's just putting people into positions that they deserve to be in.
Gotcha. So, I mean, moving forward, from the pandemic and where we are right now, how are you thinking about how agencies operate, the agency operating model, moving forward? What needs to change, or what lessons perhaps, have you learned that might serve as takeaways, moving into hopefully at some point what will be post-pandemic?
Look, I think there's a lot of things that are going to have to change. One of the things that we're focusing on is looking at productization. I think we have to do a better job at productizing some of what we do. I think that's going to be a key part of going forward.
What do you mean by that?
So when I talk about, I'm trying to think of something simple. Let's talk about a recall. Many products get recalled for all sorts of different reasons. How do we get the adoption of the consumers to fulfill what they need to do on a recall? And so that takes a whole data ecosystem, a whole creative ecosystem, and a one-to-one communication system. And if you put that into a package, and if somebody comes and says, yes, I need to get 100% recall on this product, you can say, yep, we have the system, the tools, the processes in place, we can achieve that. Here's the price. That's what I mean by productization. again, getting a bit away from the back and forth haggle on, well, how many hours is that going to take? Why does it take 100 hours? Why shouldn't it be 75 hours? And I think we need to get out of that in our business. It's terribly frustrating and doesn't reflect how much time it does take to create things. And we need to just change that. There's got to be a systemic change. And I think it's going to evolve dramatically and fast.
Any other elements of the agency model that you think are broken or need to be fixed, or even pre-pandemic, maybe this is an opportunity to change that?
No, I think the agency model will evolve. I think it will evolve faster. One of the things that I talk about a lot is velocity, which is speed with direction and purpose. And I think it's going to change multiple times. And I think we're going to see multiple evolutions of the agency model.
Yeah. How about the office space itself and, where we will be working moving forward? Are you guys back in the office yet? And what are your plans for that?
Well, as you know, it's probably different in pretty much every market on the planet, and even different in some states. We're back in many markets, but we're back at only 10% or our phase one. And we're seeing very, very small turnout. If you look at China, for example, China's back in full force. All the offices back in working away. And most of the rest of the world, other than those that are returning to lockdown, you're really getting 2, 3, maybe 4% of the population to come to the office. Where we're seeing the benefit of returning to the office for those smaller teams is collaboration and ideation, because it needs to be done together. You need to be in the same room, and we're creating big open spaces in all of our locations around the world for people to collaborate like that. And I think it's very, very effective. I don't think I have a comprehensive view yet on how this evolves over time. I think we will always need offices to drive culture and community, and they will continue to play an important role. Will they be scaled back? For sure. I don't think you need the footprint that you currently have, because there's going to be some kind of acceleration of a hybrid working model where, let's say, it's 3 days a week in the office, 2 days at home. So space is playing a role. We're back at it, but we're being very, very, very cautious, and really only in those specific instances, having people come back to the office to work together.
Does McCann have any plans to reduce real estate moving forward?
We're evaluating it for sure. I have seen some reduction in space around the world, but it's under real consideration. And we have an active task force talking about what is the future of space, because space plays a whole bunch of roles. Like I said, it's community, it's belonging, it's culture, it's the actual physical act of work. So we're taking a look at it across the organization.
Right. It's like, are we ever going to see a point where people go back to the office if they have a day where they know they're just answering emails for a large chunk of the day and they don't have in-person meetings? Those kind of things, I assume are going to change.
For sure. And like I said, I think this 3-2 environment where you're in the office 3 days a week and working remotely 2 days a week leaves team members some flexibility to do what they need to do with their life. And to your point, may add back some balance into their workday. And I think right now, work is all consuming, and it's, people are at it 20 hours a day. And I think my concern really for our team is on mental well-being too. I mean, I think that's a really important thing that we need to focus on for our teams.
Yeah, and flexibility in general perhaps wasn't a word that was popular to use in the agency advertising world pre-pandemic. There were certainly issues in terms of work-life balance pre-pandemic, and I think now we've reached a point where people are willing to talk about it because everyone is sort of dealing with the same thing. What are you thinking about as it relates to flexibility, work-life balance moving forward? How are you addressing some of the mental health issues that have arisen during this time?
Well, I'll take the first part and then I'll answer the second. The first part, in terms of how we're thinking about it, we're really talking about 3 things. What does the work week look like? Is it 3-2? Is it something different? We're evaluating unlimited PTO, personal time off. and we're looking at overall flex time programs. So we're evaluating it all so we can have it in place for 2021. In terms of mental health, we're doing a number of things. One is we will be announcing that we're providing an app for all employees at McCann Worldgroup. We have an extensive amount of content created for how to manage stress levels, how to manage work-life balance that we have done. We have a number of presentations from outsiders and insiders that are going to start in this month, and will go every single month to address mental well-being and how people are dealing with the environment that they're in. So we have a number of things that we're starting this month because I think it's really important.
Yeah. We have a question from Sarah Beat on LinkedIn, and we've slightly edited this for clarity. Given the economic disruption, do you foresee industry employment returning to pre-pandemic levels anytime soon? And what advice would you give someone looking to enter the industry?
So, look, if I knew the answer to the first one, I'd be a very smart person, and I'm not that smart. I just don't know, have any visibility or when this is going to come to a close. I think it's probably going to be slightly longer than we think. It probably towards the end of 2021. So I think probably sometime in 2022 we'll get back to the levels that we're at in 2019, but that's going to take some time for sure. And the second part of the question was, would you get into this industry? Yes, I would, absolutely. I will tell you, I've worked in a lot of industries. I've worked in the oil industry. I've worked in the publishing industry. I think this is one of the most interesting businesses on the planet. And I also will tell you, it's one of the few businesses where where you're not doing the same thing every day. You can work on a software business in the morning. You work on an automotive business in the afternoon. You can work on a packaged good company the next day. And the ability to see that span of business models, to me, is incredibly exciting and a lot of fun. And you don't get that elsewhere. The one piece of advice that I would give is spend time writing. This is a written business, and the better you can write and the better you can articulate your ideas, the better off you are in this business, I think.
I like that one. We can all spend a little bit more time writing, probably, no matter what industry you're in.
For sure.
So you're in New York, right? You're back in New York at this point?
I am in New York.
Okay, so you were hunkered down in Michigan during the pandemic.
Yeah, I actually got out of New York about March 9th. It was the last plane ride I've taken. And it's the longest I've been in one place without a plane ride in probably about 22 years. So it's been a bit strange. But yeah, I was hunkered down in Detroit. Detroit had it following New York pretty bad, and it is escalating again. It was amazing to me when I drove in about 2 weeks ago. In Michigan, you probably have 20-30% of the population that wear masks. When I arrived in Manhattan, I didn't see anybody without a mask. It was 100% adoption, which was comforting in many ways. But I spent the first several months in Detroit.
When do you think you'll feel comfortable getting back on a plane?
I don't know the answer to that one either. No time soon. I don't think there's any rush to get on a plane. So
Are clients asking for it? Is no one even there yet to ask for sort of the in-person client meetings and those kinds of things?
Some clients are asking for meetings, but you're having to do them in big rooms, and the meeting sizes are half, maybe even smaller, what they used to be. There's some clients where we are having face-to-face meetings. In terms of if you think about our office in Detroit, it's an automotive company. We have meetings probably once a week because you're local, but there's not a big push to force people to get on planes that I've witnessed so far.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about like the tone of creative, heading into especially the holiday season and into next year. Where are we? What are marketers looking to achieve at this point? Obviously we went through various phases during this point of, bringing people together, PSA type messaging and things like that. Feels like we've gotten to a more lighthearted place and are able to break away from that, pandemic specific messaging. But where are we, now at this point?
Well, I think it's there's two sides of it. I think the tone is going to be much more optimistic. I think people want to be happy. They want to feel safe. So I think you're going to have some humor and fun-based communications. And I think on the other side is going to be very purpose-driven communications, very, very, very grounded in the purpose of the brand, that the role that it plays, and discreet, I would say, not overly aggressive with a hyped up retail message. I think that tone feels a little bit off, and I think you've seen it so far. Even kind of that card pounding communications have lightened up a bit. I don't think consumers want to absorb that right now.
Have clients talked at all or said at all how they're thinking about how the election might play a role in what their tone is going forward? Has that come up in conversations?
Not really, no. Not in any conversations I've had. I'm not saying that they aren't happening, but not in any conversations I've had. I think even in the conversations I've had this morning, that everybody's pretty optimistic about the participation and pretty universally talking about we got to listen better and more effectively.
So it's still a bit early for this, but I did want to get a sense of how you guys are thinking about Super Bowl, where we're getting upon the holidays, and certainly at this point, brands would be thinking about productions and all of that. How are you guys preparing for a lot of the what ifs and unknowns?
Just working them every day. I think the Super Bowl is going to be a big event. I think if the NFL finishes out the season, that's going to be pretty impressive. And I think the Super Bowl is such a seminal event, and people are craving those kind of gatherings, that kind of community. So I think the Super Bowl is going to be big. Nothing specific that we're doing other than continually talking to our clients about, is it the right place to be and should they be there, and then going to work on the ideation.
Is it still worth the risk with all of the potential unknowns or the potential, for it not to happen?
I think so.
Any takeaways in terms of what, you've learned during this time as a leader, for the ad world? Any, takeaways or learnings during this period?
I think the biggest thing is empathy. I think it's the first time probably in history that everybody is experiencing a similar event with fears for their family, fears for their children, fears for themselves. And I think you have to have a great deal of empathy and willingness to listen and be present in those conversations. I think that's probably the most important thing that I've learned.
Great. Well, Bill, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
As always, thank you to our Ad Age crew, Alfred Mascaroni, Anna Sakula, Elise Liffring, and Max Sternlick for making this live stream happen. And thank you for everyone who tuned in.